I just dropped $20,000 on a single seat for the championship final. But was it a dream come true or a massive mistake? While I'm close enough to smell the sweat on the players, I'm also surrounded by a deafening silence of corporate suits that might be killing the vibe. Is this premium access actually worth the price of a small car? With 28 seconds left in the championship final, Marcus Bennett was close enough to see the blood running down Adrian Cole's left knee. The league's biggest superstar stood near the sideline, bent forward with both hands pressed against his shorts, trying to pull air into his exhausted lungs. Sweat rolled from his jaw and darkened the polished hardwood beneath him. Across the court, the scoreboard burned red above thousands of screaming fans. Harbor City Titans 108, Los Angeles Monarchs 109. Marcus had imagined this moment for most of his life. He had imagined the sound, the pressure, the electricity, and the feeling of being close enough to witness history without a television screen standing between him and the court. He had paid $20,000 for that privilege. Yet while the upper levels of the arena shook beneath the weight of 20,000 desperate voices, the people sitting around Marcus were almost completely silent. A silver-haired executive to his right was studying an email on his phone. A woman in a designer dress was filming herself with the court blurred behind her. Two men wearing expensive watches were discussing a property development in Miami. Another guest had already left to avoid the traffic, even though the championship was about to be decided. Marcus stared at the empty leather seat, then at the people around him. For the first time that night, he wondered whether he had made the biggest mistake of his life. $20,000 for one seat, for one night, for a dream that suddenly felt strangely empty. 4 months earlier, Marcus would have laughed if anyone had suggested he would spend that much money on a basketball ticket. At 39 years old, he had built his life around discipline. He was a tall black man with a closely trimmed beard, thoughtful brown eyes, and the broad shoulders of someone who still trained every morning before sunrise. He rarely bought designer clothes, still drove the same black pickup truck he had owned for 6 years, and lived in a comfortable but modest house outside Baltimore. His company, Bennett Secure Systems, had recently signed the largest government cybersecurity contract in its history. The deal had transformed Marcus from a successful small business owner into the kind of man financial magazines suddenly wanted to interview. People congratulated him as though the money had changed who he was. It had not. Marcus still remembered checking his mother's kitchen cabinets before school to see whether there was enough food for dinner. He remembered helping his father repair air conditioning units during summer vacations and pretending the heat did not bother him. He remembered wearing the same pair of basketball shoes until the soles separated and his father sealed them with industrial glue. Most clearly, he remembered Friday nights with his father, Isaiah Bennett. Isaiah was not a man who expressed emotion easily. He worked long hours, spoke carefully, and treated every dollar as though it might be the family's last. But when the Harbor City Titans played, something inside him changed. He would move the old television into the center of the living room, prepare a bowl of popcorn, and sit beside Marcus on their faded brown couch. During close games, Isaiah became louder than anyone in the neighborhood. He argued with referees who could not hear him. He predicted plays before they happened. He celebrated every important basket by slapping Marcus's hands so hard that their palms hurt. Those games were among the happiest memories of Marcus's childhood. The Titans never won the championship during those years. They reached the conference final twice, lost both times, and spent the following decade rebuilding. Still, Isaiah watched every season with the same stubborn belief. One day, he always told Marcus, they're going to make it all the way, and when they do, we're going to be there. Marcus believed him. When Marcus was 17, Isaiah took him to his first professional game. Their seats were 6 rows from the top of the arena, directly behind a concrete pillar that blocked part of the court. Isaiah had saved for 3 months to buy the tickets. The players looked like small moving figures beneath the lights, and Marcus had to lean sideways whenever the action moved toward the far basket. None of it mattered. The crowd sang together, strangers embraced after important shots. The arena smelled of popcorn, sweat, and cheap pizza. Marcus remembered looking at his father during the final minutes and seeing a happiness on his face that daily life rarely allowed. On the way home, Isaiah pointed toward the expensive seats beside the court. "That's where we'll sit when they reach the final," he said. Marcus laughed. "Those seats probably cost more than our house. Then you'd better become successful." "I'm serious." "So am I." Marcus carried that conversation for more than 20 years. Isaiah did not live long enough to see the promise fulfilled. A sudden heart attack took him on a rainy Tuesday morning, 2 years before Bennett Secure Systems landed its major contract. Marcus had been preparing for an investor presentation when his mother called. He reached the hospital 17 minutes after his father died. The loss left a silence in Marcus that work could not fill. He buried himself in his company, sleeping 4 hours a night and answering emails during family dinners. Every achievement became another wall built around the grief he refused to examine. The Titans continued playing in the background of his life. Marcus watched when he had time, usually alone in his office with the sound turned low. The games no longer felt the same without Isaiah predicting every play beside him. Then came the season no one expected. Harbor City began winning. Adrian Cole, a 26-year-old black shooting guard from Detroit, became the heart of the team. He played with a mixture of speed, intelligence, and stubborn courage that reminded Marcus of Isaiah. The Titans defeated stronger opponents, survived injuries, and entered the playoffs as underdogs. With each victory, Marcus found himself watching more closely. When the Titans reached the conference final, he moved his meetings around their schedule. When they won the series in 6 games, he stood alone in his living room as thousands of fans stormed the streets around the arena. The Titans were going to the championship final. The promise Isaiah had made was finally possible. The following morning, Marcus searched for tickets. Most seats had already disappeared. Upper-level tickets cost more than $3,000. Lower-level seats started near $8,000. Then Marcus found a resale listing that made him stop breathing. Front row, courtside, section A, seat 14, $20,000 after fees. He stared at the number for nearly 10 minutes. $20,000 could fund a scholarship. It could pay someone's rent for a year. It could replace his mother's aging car. It could support one of the community programs his company sponsored. It was also more money than Isaiah had earned during some entire years of Marcus's childhood. Marcus closed the website. An hour later, he opened it again. He imagined the court beneath the lights. He imagined the players running past him. He imagined sitting where his father had once pointed and fulfilling the promise neither of them had forgotten. Before he could change his mind, Marcus clicked purchase. The confirmation appeared instantly. His stomach dropped. He had expected excitement, but the first emotion he felt was fear. When his best friend Terrence heard about the ticket, he nearly choked on his coffee. "You spent how much? 20,000. Terrence stared at him across the table. "On basketball." "On the final, does the seat come with a player?" Marcus smiled despite himself. Terrence leaned back. "You could watch the game in my basement for free. It's not just about the game. I know it's about your father." Marcus looked down at his coffee. Terrence's expression softened. They had known each other since middle school, and he understood the importance of Isaiah better than most people. "I'm not saying don't go," Terrence said. "I'm saying $20,000 is a dangerous amount of pressure to put on one night." "What does that mean?" "It means you're expecting the ticket to make you feel something money can't guarantee." Marcus dismissed the warning, but it followed him all the way to championship night. The arena district was already overflowing when his driver approached the security barriers. Streets were packed with fans wearing blue and gold jerseys. Music blasted from restaurants. Vendors sold shirts, flags, and homemade posters. Children stood on their parents' shoulders, hoping to see the team bus. Marcus pressed his hand against the car window and watched them. The excitement reminded him of the first game he had attended with Isaiah. It felt real. It felt alive. Then the car turned away from the crowd and entered the private VIP lane. The noise faded behind tinted glass. At the entrance, Marcus was guided across a blue carpet beneath corporate banners. Photographers waited beside a wall covered in sponsor logos. Television personalities interviewed celebrities and retired athletes. A young woman scanned Marcus's digital ticket and placed a gold wristband around his arm. "Welcome to the Championship Elite Experience, Mr. Bennett." The words sounded more like a luxury product advertisement than an invitation to a basketball game. Inside, he was led to a private lounge with marble floors, crystal lighting, and trays of food arranged like artwork. Champagne flowed from a tower of glasses. A jazz trio played quietly in the corner. Marcus looked for televisions showing the pregame coverage. There were only 2 and neither had sound. Most guests were talking about business. A technology executive introduced himself after recognizing Marcus from an article. Within 2 minutes, he was pitching a partnership. Another man asked whether Marcus knew anyone involved in federal procurement. A luxury real estate agent handed him a card and invited him to view waterfront properties. No one mentioned the Titans. Marcus checked the time and left the lounge early. When he entered the arena bowl, the sound hit him with physical force. The upper levels were already filled. Fans waved towels, shouted players' names, and sang the team anthem. Blue and gold lights swept across the seats while images of the Titans' greatest moments played across the enormous screens. Marcus stopped at the top of the stairs. For several seconds he felt 17 again, then an usher escorted him down toward the court. Each step brought him closer to the players. He could hear sneakers squeaking during warm-ups. He could hear coaches calling instructions. He could see the concentration in Adrian Cole's face as he practiced jump shots. Seat 14 was even closer than Marcus had expected. His feet rested less than 3 feet from the sideline. He lowered himself into the padded chair and looked around in disbelief. His father had once pointed toward seats like this from the highest level of the arena. Now Marcus was sitting in one. He took out his phone, opened an old photograph, and placed it against his knee. The picture showed Isaiah wearing a faded Titans cap beside 17-year-old Marcus. Both were smiling outside the arena after their first game. "We made it," Marcus whispered. The seats around him slowly filled. To his right sat Charles Weller, a private equity executive whose company sponsored the league. Charles wore a navy suit without a tie and immediately opened his laptop. Beside Charles sat a younger man named Peter, who spent warm-ups making video calls and turning the camera toward the players. To Marcus's left sat a social media personality named Sienna Vale and her manager. Sienna wore a bright silver dress and repeatedly asked her manager which background would look best in photographs. Marcus tried to start a conversation. "Have you been following the Titans all season?" he asked Charles. Charles glanced up. "Not really, I'm based in New York. Monarchs fan. I don't follow basketball much." Marcus thought he had misheard him. "You don't follow the league? My company received the tickets through a sponsorship agreement." Charles returned to his laptop. Sienna overheard the conversation. "I don't know anything about basketball either," she said cheerfully. "But this event is incredible for engagement." She raised her phone and filmed herself smiling. Marcus looked over his shoulder. 10 rows behind him, lifelong fans were shouting during warm-ups as if the game had already started. The difference disturbed him, but he tried not to let it affect the night. When the lights darkened for the player introductions, the arena exploded. Marcus stood immediately. Most of the people around him remained seated. Adrian Cole ran onto the court through smoke and flashing lights. He slapped hands with teammates, pointed toward the crowd and pounded his chest. Marcus shouted until his throat burned. Charles looked at him with mild surprise. The opening minutes were everything Marcus had imagined. The speed was shocking from courtside. Players who looked smooth on television seemed almost violent in person. Their bodies collided like vehicles. Coaches screamed instructions over the noise. Sweat sprayed from twisting shoulders. The ball struck the hardwood with a deep, sharp rhythm. Marcus could hear the players talking. He heard frustration, encouragement, and pain. He heard Adrian warn a teammate about a screen before it happened. He heard the Monarchs' center curse after missing a free throw. He heard officials explaining calls. For a while, the price disappeared from Marcus's mind. Then he noticed the silence around him again. The Titans made 3 consecutive baskets, cutting an early deficit. The upper levels erupted, but the front row barely reacted. Charles continued typing. Peter watched another game on his phone. Sienna recorded short videos whenever the crowd became loud, then stopped filming and asked her manager whether the lighting made her skin look pale. When Marcus stood to celebrate a powerful dunk, the woman behind him tapped his shoulder. "Would you mind sitting?" she asked. "You're blocking my camera." Marcus stared at her. "The game is happening," he said. "I know, but I'm recording." He sat slowly. For the first time, the seat felt less like a dream and more like a cage. The Titans fell behind by 11 points in the second quarter. Adrian fought to keep them close, driving into the paint and absorbing hard contact. Each time he crashed to the floor, Marcus felt the impact through his shoes. During a timeout, dancers entered the court and music shook the arena. A teenage boy wearing a stadium uniform appeared near the tunnel carrying a container of clean towels. He was thin, maybe 16, with dark skin, short twists, and an expression of pure fascination. Instead of watching the dancers, he watched Adrian. One of the supervisors called his name. Malik. "Keep moving." The boy quickly lowered his eyes and disappeared into the tunnel. Marcus thought about him throughout the remainder of the half. The Titans entered halftime trailing by 7. VIP guests immediately abandoned their seats and returned to the private lounges. Marcus stayed behind, watching arena workers sweep the floor. A basketball rolled toward the sideline and stopped near his feet. Marcus picked it up. The leather felt heavier and rougher than the replica balls he had owned as a child. He turned it in his hands, remembering Isaiah rebounding for him on a cracked outdoor court after long days at work. "Sir?" Marcus looked up. Malik stood several feet away holding an empty ball rack. "That needs to come back." "Of course." Marcus bounced the ball once and passed it to him. Malik caught it easily. "You play?" Marcus asked. "A little." The boy looked toward the tunnel, making sure his supervisor was not watching. "You a Titans fan?" Malik smiled for the first time. "My whole life." "Then why aren't you watching?" "I'm working." "You haven't seen any of the game?" "Some of it. There's a monitor behind the loading area." Marcus glanced at the courtside seats. Several were empty because their owners had gone to drink champagne. "You should have one of these seats." Malik gave a quiet laugh. "People like me don't sit here." The sentence struck Marcus harder than he expected. "People like you? People who work here." Malik placed the ball on the rack. "My mom cleans the executive suites. She got me the job for the playoffs. We're trying to save money for college." "What do you want to study?" "Mechanical engineering." Marcus smiled. "That's not easy. Neither is cleaning luxury suites after rich people throw food everywhere." There was no bitterness in Malik's voice. He stated it as a simple fact. "Did your mother get to watch any games?" "She watches highlights after we get home." A supervisor called from the tunnel again. Malik grabbed the rack. "Enjoy the seat, sir." Marcus watched him disappear. The words did not sound sarcastic, but they remained in Marcus's mind. "Enjoy the seat." He looked around at the discarded drink cups, untouched food, and empty chairs. $20,000. He had spent more for one night than Malik and his mother might save in a year. Guilt rose inside him, but he resisted it. He had earned the money. He employed more than 80 people. His company funded scholarships and donated equipment to community centers. He was allowed to buy something for himself. Still, the argument felt defensive. Marcus returned to the lounge, hoping food and a few minutes of quiet would reset his mood. Instead, he found a crowd gathered around a famous retired player. Guests pushed forward for photographs while waiters moved carefully between them. Near the rear of the lounge, a service door opened. Marcus glimpsed several employees standing in a narrow hallway. A small television had been placed on a supply cart. Workers in kitchen uniforms, cleaning uniforms and security jackets were watching halftime analysis with the sound low. Malik stood among them. Their attention was complete. No one checked a phone. No one discussed business. When a replay showed Adrian's first quarter dunk, they reacted more passionately than the people occupying the most expensive seats in the building. Then a manager appeared. The workers immediately scattered. The door closed. Marcus no longer felt hungry. He returned to seat 14 before the second half began. The Titans opened the third quarter with renewed intensity. Adrian stole the ball, raced down the court and finished with a reverse layup. The crowd roared. Marcus stood. This time he did not care who complained. "Let's go," he shouted. Charles looked up from his phone. "You're emotionally invested," he said. "Isn't that the point?" Charles shrugged. "My firm owns part of a sports management company. I try not to become attached to outcomes." "That sounds miserable." Charles smiled faintly. "Attachment is expensive." Marcus almost laughed at the irony. The game tightened. Harbor City cut the deficit to 3, then tied the score with a corner shot. The Monarchs answered with 2 difficult baskets. Adrian drove into the lane, was knocked to the floor and remained there for several seconds. The arena became quiet. Marcus leaned forward. Adrian slowly stood, but he was limping. The Titans' medical staff asked him to leave the court. He refused. From only a few feet away, Marcus could see pain spreading across the player's face. Television transformed athletes into symbols. Courtside, Marcus saw the truth. Adrian was not a superhero. He was a young man pushing his body beyond its safe limits because an entire city expected him to deliver a dream. The realization changed the game for Marcus. He stopped seeing statistics and began noticing sacrifices. A veteran forward was bleeding through a cut above his eyebrow. A reserve player whispered encouragement despite knowing he might not enter the game. Coaches gripped one another's shoulders during timeouts. Arena workers sprinted onto the floor to wipe away sweat so players would not be injured. Thousands of invisible efforts supported every second of the spectacle. Yet the wealthiest people in the building seemed the least connected to any of it. Near the end of the third quarter, a young father and his daughter walked down the aisle. Both wore old Titans jerseys. The girl could not have been older than 9. They stopped near the courtside barrier and the father raised his phone. "One picture," he told the usher. "She's never been this close." Before he could take it, a security supervisor approached. "You need to return to your section." I just wanted, now sir." The girl's smile disappeared. Marcus felt anger rising. The father apologized and guided her back toward the stairs. As they passed, Marcus noticed the section printed on their tickets, upper level, nearly the same place where he and Isaiah had once sat. He called to them. "Excuse me." The father turned cautiously. Marcus stepped away from his seat and crouched beside the girl. "Who's your favorite player?" "Adrian Cole," she said quietly. Marcus pointed toward the court. "Stand right here." The security supervisor moved closer. "Sir, they cannot remain in this section. They're taking one picture. It violates arena policy." Marcus looked at the man. "Then consider it part of my championship elite experience." Charles laughed under his breath. The supervisor hesitated, clearly calculating whether upsetting a front row guest was worth enforcing the rule. Marcus took the father's phone. The girl stood with her back to the court. As Marcus prepared to take the photograph, Adrian walked toward the sideline during a timeout. He noticed the girl's jersey. Adrian stepped into the background, pointed toward her name on the back and smiled. Marcus captured the photograph. The girl turned, saw Adrian and froze. He leaned over the barrier and bumped his fist against hers. "Keep cheering," he told her. She nodded, speechless. The entire interaction lasted less than 15 seconds. As her father led her away, his eyes met Marcus's. "Thank you," he said. The gratitude in his voice gave Marcus a stronger feeling than anything the VIP lounge had offered. Sienna leaned toward him after they left. "That was beautiful," she said. "Did anyone record it?" Marcus stared at her. "No, that's unfortunate. It would have gone viral." "Maybe it didn't need to." Sienna seemed confused by the idea. The fourth quarter began with the Titans trailing by 5. The noise increased with every possession. Marcus joined chants coming from behind him, though few people near the court participated. For several minutes he forgot his frustration. Then Charles received a phone call. He answered without lowering his voice. As Adrian attempted free throws, Charles discussed a merger worth hundreds of millions of dollars. People around him glanced over, but he continued speaking. Marcus finally leaned toward him. "Can you take that somewhere else?" Charles covered the phone. "This is important. So is this." Charles looked toward the court. "It's a game. To you." Their eyes held for a moment. Charles stood and walked toward the tunnel. He did not return. His empty courtside seat remained beside Marcus during the most important quarter in the Titans' history. The game moved into its final 5 minutes. The Monarchs led by 8. Adrian could barely run, but he refused to leave. He made a difficult three-point shot, stole the ball on the next possession, and assisted a teammate for another basket. The lead fell to 3. Every fan in the upper levels stood. Many courtside guests remained seated so they could continue recording. Marcus looked toward the service tunnel. Malik was standing just beyond the entrance holding folded towels. He was leaning as far as he could without stepping into view. Marcus looked at Charles's empty seat. An idea entered his mind. He moved quickly toward the tunnel. Malik straightened when he saw him. Is something wrong, sir? Come with me. What? There's an empty seat. Malik looked behind him. I can't. The man left. That doesn't mean I can sit there. The game has 4 minutes left. I'll lose my job. Marcus looked for the supervisor. You said you were saving for college. How much do you earn here? Sir, I really need to. How much? $17 an hour. Marcus nodded. If they fire you, my company will hire you as a paid engineering intern until school begins. Malik stared at him. You don't even know me. I know you're working during the biggest game of your life while someone who doesn't care left a $20,000 seat empty. That doesn't make it mine. No, Marcus said, but it makes leaving it empty ridiculous. A supervisor appeared at the end of the tunnel. Malik's face tightened. Please go back to your seat. Marcus saw genuine fear in the boy's eyes. This was not a dramatic movie moment to him. His income mattered. His mother's job might be affected. Marcus's attempt at generosity could create consequences he would never personally face. He stepped back. You're right, Marcus said. I'm sorry. Malik looked relieved but also disappointed. Marcus returned to the court. The Titans were now behind by 1. 3 minutes remained. He sat beside Charles's empty chair and thought about access. Wealth had allowed him to enter spaces guarded by rules, yet the same rules became suddenly immovable when someone like Malik approached them. Marcus could buy the seat but could not easily share the experience. He could not stop thinking about something Malik had said. People like me don't sit here. Marcus had heard similar words throughout his own life. People like him did not own cybersecurity companies. People like him did not win federal contracts. People like him did not enter rooms where decisions were made. Every barrier Marcus had crossed had been defended by someone calling it policy, tradition, or qualification. Sometimes the rules protected order. Sometimes they protected privilege. With 2 minutes remaining, Adrian missed a shot. The Monarchs scored at the other end. The Titans fell behind by 3. A timeout was called. Marcus made his decision. He removed the gold VIP wristband from his arm and placed it on Charles's empty seat. Then he walked away from the court. Sienna looked up. Where are you going? To watch the game. She pointed toward his seat. You are watching it. Marcus shook his head. No, I'm attending it. He entered the tunnel and found Malik. Show me where the employees watch. Malik blinked. Why? Because I want to hear people who care. The boy hesitated, then led Marcus through a service corridor beneath the arena. The polished public surfaces disappeared. They passed storage rooms, electrical panels, delivery areas, and stacks of equipment. The sound of the crowd echoed through concrete walls. Malik opened the door to a loading area. More than 30 employees had gathered around the television on the supply cart. Cooks, cleaners, maintenance workers, ushers, and security guards stood shoulder to shoulder. Some recognized Marcus from Courtside and moved aside. He shook his head. Don't make room for me. A woman wearing a cleaning uniform stepped forward. She was in her early 40s with tired eyes and the same smile as Malik. My mother, Malik said. Denise. Marcus introduced himself. Denise looked toward the screen, then at his expensive suit. Aren't you supposed to be out there? I was, Marcus said. What happened? I found a better section. The employees laughed. The Titans scored, cutting the lead to 1. The loading area erupted. People shouted, slapped hands, and jumped in place. Someone banged a serving spoon against a metal cart. A cook grabbed Marcus by the shoulders and shook him as if they had known each other for years. This was the sound Marcus had expected from Courtside. This was what he had paid to feel. The Monarchs called timeout with 53 seconds remaining. During the break, an elderly maintenance worker kept staring at Marcus. The man wore a gray beard and a faded Titans cap beneath his work helmet. What's your last name? He asked. Bennett. The man's eyes narrowed. Isaiah Bennett's boy. Marcus felt the room change around him. You knew my father, the worker smiled. Knew him? Isaiah worked maintenance in this building before they rebuilt the west side. Marcus stared at him. His father had repaired commercial cooling systems throughout the city, but Marcus had never known he worked at the arena. What's your name? Leonard Price. Leonard removed his helmet. Your father used to talk about you constantly, said his son would own a company one day. Marcus swallowed. He said that. He told everyone, drove us crazy. The workers laughed softly. Leonard looked toward the screen where players were returning to the court. Isaiah used to watch games from the service tunnel whenever his shift allowed it. He couldn't afford the lower seats, but he knew every corner of this arena. Marcus remembered his father's promise. One day they would sit courtside together. Did he ever talk about the championship? Marcus asked. Leonard's smile faded. All the time. He reached into the pocket of his work jacket and removed a small key ring. Attached to it was a scratched metal token bearing the old Titans logo. Your father gave me this the year the team nearly reached the final, told me to keep it until they finally made it. Why? He said somebody from the Bennett family would come looking for the heart of the arena. Marcus stared at the token. That sounds like him. No, Leonard said. It sounds better than him. Isaiah actually said, keep this junk, Marcus will understand one day. Marcus laughed, and the laughter immediately became something else. For 2 years, he had avoided speaking about his father because every memory felt painful. Now, surrounded by strangers who had known Isaiah in a life Marcus had never seen, the grief broke through him. Leonard placed the token in Marcus's palm. He would have been proud to see you sitting down there. Marcus looked around the loading area. Maybe, but I'm not sure he would have liked the people around me. Leonard grinned. Isaiah didn't like most people. The employees laughed again. On the television, the Titans forced a turnover. 28 seconds remained. The loading area fell silent. Adrian Cole received the ball near midcourt. The same moment Marcus had imagined from his $20,000 seat was happening on a small television balanced on a supply cart. He could no longer smell the players' sweat. He could not hear their shoes against the hardwood. He could not see the blood running down Adrian's knee, yet he felt closer to the game than he had all night. Adrian dribbled slowly as the clock dropped. 20 seconds. The Monarchs sent a second defender toward him. 15 seconds. Adrian passed to the corner. His teammate hesitated, then returned the ball. 10 seconds. Everyone in the loading area began counting. 9. Adrian crossed left. 8. He stumbled on his injured leg. 7. The defender reached for the ball. 6. Adrian spun away. 5. He drove toward the basket. 4. A second defender blocked his path. 3. Adrian jumped, twisting in the air. 2. He released the ball high above the defender's hand. 1. The buzzer sounded. For a fraction of a second, the ball seemed to stop at the top of its arc. Then it dropped through the net. The television shook as the loading area exploded. Marcus was lifted from the floor by people whose names he did not know. Denise screamed. Malik jumped onto a stack of folded mats. Leonard threw his helmet into the air. Kitchen workers rushed from nearby rooms after hearing the noise. The Titans had won the championship. Marcus shouted until no sound came from his throat. Someone hugged him from behind. Another person poured water over his head. The serving spoon struck the metal cart again and again. Above them, 20,000 fans celebrated. Below them, in the hidden corridors that kept the arena functioning, the workers celebrated just as loudly. Marcus gripped the old metal token in his hand. For one overwhelming moment, he felt Isaiah beside him, not in the courtside seat. Here, among workers in uniforms. Among people who understood what it meant to watch from the edges. Among people who cared enough to turn a small television into the center of the universe. The loading area door opened. A security supervisor stepped inside. Everyone became still. The supervisor looked at Malik, then at Marcus. "Mr. Bennett, your seat representative has been searching for you." Marcus wiped water from his face. "Tell them I'm fine." The supervisor looked around the crowded room. "Employees are not permitted to gather here during active shifts." Marcus stepped forward. "The game is over. The policy still applies." Denise quietly reached for a cleaning cart. Marcus felt the old anger return, but Leonard placed a hand on his arm. "Not tonight," Leonard said. "Don't let them shrink the moment." Marcus nodded. He thanked the workers, hugged Leonard, and promised Malik they would speak about the internship regardless of whether he kept his arena job. When Marcus returned to the court, confetti covered the floor. Players wore championship caps. Cameras surrounded Adrian. Music thundered through the building. His $20,000 seat was empty. The gold wristband remained where he had left it. Charles had never returned. Sienna was standing on the court with several influencers, filming herself beneath the falling confetti. She saw Marcus and waved excitedly. "You missed the winning shot." She shouted. Marcus smiled. "No, I didn't." He stepped through the confetti and looked toward the upper levels. The father and daughter he had helped earlier were still there. The girl was crying with happiness, holding the phone that contained her photograph with Adrian. Marcus imagined Isaiah somewhere above them, laughing at how much his son had paid to learn a simple lesson. The trophy presentation began. Adrian took the microphone and thanked the city. He thanked his teammates, coaches, medical staff, and family. Then he turned toward the workers standing near the court entrances. "This building runs because of people most fans never see," he said. "This championship belongs to them too." Marcus looked toward the tunnel. Malik and Denise stood just inside the entrance. For the first time that night, they were not hiding. The audience applauded. Some courtside guests joined only after noticing the cameras turning toward them. Marcus did not care. He lifted the old Titans token above his head. 1 week later, Terrence visited Marcus's office. A framed photograph from championship night sat on the wall. It did not show Marcus courtside. It showed him in the loading area with Malik, Denise, Leonard, and dozens of arena workers seconds after the winning basket. Terrence studied the picture. "So," he said, "was the seat worth $20,000? Marcus leaned back in his chair. "No," Terrence laughed. "I knew it. The seat wasn't worth it." "But," Marcus looked at the metal token on his desk. "The night was." He explained what had happened beneath the arena. He told Terrence about Leonard, his father's old job, and the workers watching from the supply cart. When he finished, Terrence remained quiet. "What are you going to do about it?" he finally asked. Marcus had already decided. The following season, Bennett Secure Systems purchased 200 tickets for every Titans home game. The seats were not courtside. Most were in the upper levels, where the view was distant but the energy was alive. The tickets went to students, hospital workers, public school teachers, community volunteers, and arena employees who could not afford to attend games as fans. Marcus also created a paid engineering internship and offered the first position to Malik. Malik accepted. 2 years later, he entered college with a scholarship funded jointly by Marcus's company and the Titans organization. Leonard retired after the championship season. At his final game, Marcus sat beside him 6 rows from the top of the arena, directly behind a concrete support beam. The new arena design meant the beam did not completely block the court, but Leonard complained about it anyway. Marcus bought popcorn. Leonard criticized every referee's decision. Fans around them stood, shouted, and celebrated together. During halftime, Leonard looked toward the courtside seats. Ever going back down there? Marcus considered the question. Maybe once. Another $20,000, not a chance. Leonard nodded approvingly. Late in the fourth quarter, a boy sitting in front of them turned around and asked Marcus whether he could see over his shoulders. Marcus lowered himself in his seat. Better. The boy smiled. Yeah. When the Titans scored, the entire section rose together. Marcus stood with them, holding his father's medal token in one hand. He finally understood that the value of a seat had little to do with its distance from the court. A person could sit close enough to hear every breath and still feel completely separated from the game. Another person could watch from the highest row, behind a pillar, or on a tiny television in a service hallway and feel connected to every heartbeat in the building. Marcus had paid $20,000 expecting proximity to create meaning. Instead, the night taught him that meaning came from memory, sacrifice, and the people sharing the moment beside him. The front row seat had given him the clearest view of the players. Walking away from it had given him the clearest view of everything else. Years later, whenever someone asked Marcus whether the championship final had been worth the price of a small car, he always gave the same answer. The ticket was overpriced. The luxury was hollow. The company around him had nearly destroyed the atmosphere he had dreamed about since childhood. But the mistake had led him beneath the arena, where he rediscovered his father, met people who still loved the game, and learned that access meant very little unless it could be shared. $20,000 had not purchased the winning shot. It had not purchased joy. It had not purchased a final memory with Isaiah. It had only placed Marcus close enough to recognize what was missing. The moment became priceless when he left the expensive seat behind.